About 2 years ago, I looked around and realized that we were slowly becoming what we started to fight against. And I thought that we had definitely neglected some of the up-and-coming brands, the price of our show. A lot of the brands that were showing us our focus had totally shifted away from the independent, and we were slowly becoming the next ASR. So I put something in motion called Primer, which is a segment of our show just for independent brands, that now our show costs almost $5,000 a booth. I put a new section where brands could get in for $1,000 or $1,500 to get in and still be in agenda, and we put a lot of focus on them. We put highlight on them, and that's probably going to be our fastest growing category by next show. So yeah, at a certain point we almost went and did what we set out to go against, but then by coming back and putting focus on the independent brands and fishing them out and making sure they have a place and a home and agenda where they're going to get some attention is really important for us, so we don't just become the next ASR.
There's something walking on my mind that's making it cross that old state line without a help of avenging bullets.
There's been a lot of corporate companies coming into the mix. PPR buying Volcom. A lot of companies have gone public. I don't view any of that as a negative thing. I think as long as people just don't let that change their brand identity, I think the whole industry is going to be fine. I haven't seen it happen yet where someone went public or they sold to someone else and all of a sudden they just in Target. It seemed like if anything, when they get those deals, they're able to sign more athletes, they're able to do more marketing, they have more brand initiatives, they're able to diversify their line more and make more specialty product for the core retailers, and then also have a separate line for PacSun. So I see it as those guys are actually getting better at what they do, especially if you look at a company like Vans, who's part of Vanity Fair Corporation, and they're probably one of the biggest publicly traded apparel houses in the globe. They're doing better at the core level than probably anyone else right now, and they're also a publicly traded huge company. So I don't see it as a negative. I see it as a good thing. Yeah, I think that's a pretty dead-on quote. I forget who said that, but I like it. I think that definitely describes the show in an interesting way. But yeah, it's like you have to come out, you have a good time, but it isn't too good of a time where you're just hungover, you're not doing anything. You're going to write your business, you're going to go home, it's going to be productive. But you still learn something. We try to make it, cultural and have, live art displays instead of a beer garden. We try to do stuff and make it a learning experience and educational, but still a fun time. And, we do some cool, fun parties at night, but it's definitely get to the show early, write some orders, and, make it worthwhile for coming out. We met in What led me to be involved in the action sports industry, I think, goes all the way back to junior high at Lindero Canyon Middle School, and I think there was this kind of epic divide between good and evil at the lunch tables. Either you sat with the jocks or the skaters, and I think I ended up sitting at the skate table, even though I rode BMX. I wasn't a skater, and I think I kind of identified with that lifestyle, and I think that led me into other things, whether it be graffiti or art, but definitely always revolved around a lot of my friends skateboarding and snowboarding and surfing and participating in action sports. And I kind of ended up, getting an internship at a graffiti clothing company that was going to ASR, and I became really interested in that, and just through that internship really became interested in the industry, the action sports industry, and just led me to where I am today, kind of all through the lunch table at Lindero Canyon Middle School. I guess it really depends on the company. You look at Quicksilver and Kelly Slater. I couldn't imagine a better relationship between a company and an athlete. I mean, I don't know the numbers, but I heard that guy makes $10 million a year, and Quicksilver paid for some of the biggest advertisements for any athlete in any sport when he won the 10-time world championship. You go to Huntington Beach, and he's plastered up and down the light poles in every street. So that seems like a good relationship. So I think, definitely the top guys are treated right. Again, no one in surfing or skating or motocross is definitely at the Kobe Bryant or LeBron James level where they're getting $50 million a year in endorsements, but I definitely think we're on our way. There's a few key people, whether it be Ryan Sheckler's, Ken Block, some people who are really paving the way for these athletes to be paid like they should be, and I think it's only going to get more, and I don't think we're far away from the day where some action sport athletes are going to be making what football, baseball, and basketball players are making. In the next 3 years of the show, we want to make the show a lot bigger, and this is the really difficult part. Try to make it that much bigger, but don't make it what ASR was or what any of the big shows failed at, where it just gets so big and it just becomes, the opposite of that quote you said a minute ago, this kind of nameless, faceless shit show. And I think that's, with every section that we do, it has to have a lot of authenticity. So when we went into skateboarding, we partnered with the Barracks. And when I do something, let's say with fixed gear bicycling next time, we're going to find the most authentic people in that genre and partner with them. And when we roll out our snowboard show next time, we're going to partner with a huge endemic media source with snowboarding, and making sure that everywhere we grow, there's a lot of excitement and the right partners in place. So even though the show could get huge, each thing has its own energy. It's almost like its own show that could stand alone on itself, not just like keep throwing whatever brands in the room until it just gets so big we can't fit anymore. There has to be a rhyme or a reason between everything we do. The definite trends that we're going to be growing into, and things that we're going to be addressing at the show, I think definitely motorcycle culture and chopper culture is a huge emerging thing that we had at the show this season. I think is only going to get bigger. We may do some merchandising around that. I think BMX and fixed gear bike could see its own section at the show in the future. Snowboarding, we launched last January. I think that's going to double or triple in size for us. So there's definitely key things we could add on the show, but still related to everything else we have there. That's a really difficult question. I think the biggest thing is that, or at least the best thing that ever happened to me was, before I set out and tried to do my own thing, I went and I got an internship, and I spent 2 or 3 years of my life working for someone else who knew what they were doing, and it was like a sponge, and I sucked in everything that I could and all the information and made a lot of connections. So when I finally stepped out there on my own, I kind of already had a base. And I think some people have a little bit of arrogance with this, think they just, I know what I'm doing, and they just step out there and they try to do it without really knowing anything. And there's definitely a lot of try and fail. I could list 10 different things I tried and failed at before Agenda worked. So I think definitely you can't be scared to fail. You need to get out there and get some experience, hopefully on someone else's dime at an internship. And I think you gotta try to. You can't be scared, like, going back to what I said before, it's like the first season we were calling Nike saying, hey, come to our show, but no one even knew what our show was yet. I think you got to try some outlandish stuff and reach out for some things that are outside of your grasp, and hopefully some of those things will happen for you,
Everyone's got some sort of ball and chain.